why your strength is killing you, and softness might save your life. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that came from a conversation I had recently with Angelicia Ellis. Angelicia is a woman whose journey represents what so many of us carry but rarely name. She is a survivor, a healer, a boundary setter, and a living testament to the power of choosing softness after a lifetime of being forced to be strong. Her story, her wisdom, and her courage are making the world a better place by showing Black women that we don't have to build our lives on the foundation of our pain. We can build on the foundation of our healing. And that shift, that one decision to stop performing strength and start practicing softness, changes everything. So let me ask you something. How many of you were taught that your value comes from how much you can endure? How many of you learned early that being strong meant being silent? That being professional meant being invulnerable? That being a leader meant never needing help? If you're nodding right now, you're not alone. Because for Black women, especially those of us who survived trauma, violence, and neglect, strength was never optional. It was survival. And survival became our identity. But here's the counterintuitive truth that Angelicia helped me see even more clearly. Healing is more professionally powerful than hustling through unhealed trauma. Boundaries are not just emotional tools, they are business strategies. And choosing softness after surviving domestic and sexual violence is not weakness. It is a radical reclamation of self, body, and destiny. Let me say that again. Choosing softness after surviving violence is not weakness, it is power. Now, I know some of you are thinking, LeAnne, I've been strong my whole life. I don't know how to be soft. I don't even know if I'm allowed to be soft. And I hear you because the script we were handed, the one that said we had to be the strong Black woman, the superwoman, the one who holds everyone else together while falling apart inside, that script didn't leave room for softness. It didn't leave room for rest. It didn't leave room for us to say, I'm tired. I need help. I deserve more than survival. But what if I told you this script was never yours to begin with? Researchers have studied this. Dr. Cheryl Woods Giscombe explored what she called the Superwoman schema. She found that Black women across the country felt intense pressure to always appear strong, to care for others before themselves, to suppress emotions, and to avoid vulnerability. And this wasn't just a personal preference, it was a culturally reinforced expectation rooted in histories of slavery, exploitation, and the social demand that Black women absorb pain silently. The study found that this constant performance of strength led to delayed help seeking for mental health, work, and caregiving overload, and symptoms of depression, anxiety, and burnout. Another study by Abrams, Hill, and Maxwell went even deeper. They found that when the expectation of strength was combined with self silencing, it predicted higher depressive symptoms. In other words, the more we tried to be strong and silent, the sicker we became. Let that sink in for a moment. The very thing we were told would save us was slowly killing us. But here's the breakthrough. When Black women gave themselves permission to be vulnerable, to let go of the superwoman role, to name the harm and question the script, it opened the door to healthier coping and better psychological well being. It opened the door to healing. It opened the door to softness. And that's exactly what Angelicia's story represents. She experienced horrific violence at the hands of her biological father, rape before and after school, and a complete lack of protection from the people who should have shielded her. She had to become her own protector as a child. That survival armor helped her navigate the world, but it also taught her to live in constant defense, always braced for the next blow. And for years, that armor became her identity. It became her professionalism. It became her leadership style. It became the way she showed up in the world. But then something shifted. She realized that the question wasn't, how do I survive this? The question was, do I deserve a life where I am not constantly surviving? And the answer was yes. So she started to set boundaries. She started to prioritize healing. She started to choose softness. And what happened? She didn't lose respect. She didn't lose influence. She didn't lose her edge. She gained professional respect and personal freedom. She built a life and a career that were not organized around her pain. She honored her survival without commodifying her wounds. And that's the first thing I want you to hold on to today. Your trauma is part of your story, but it is not your whole identity. And it does not have to be your business model. You are allowed to build a life and career that are not organized around your pain. You can honor your survival without making it your brand. Now, let me introduce you to someone else who embodies this truth. Lashana Blanks is a Black professional and coach who looked at the script she had been handed and said, "Hey, I am not reading this anymore." She had been living according to a script that demanded endless strength and resilience, emotional suppression, and performing in vulnerability in professional and personal spaces. But she made a choice. She embraced what she calls soft girl authenticity. She set clear boundaries. She prioritized emotional healing over constant resilience. She stopped performing strength and started practicing softness. And what happened? She gained professional respect and personal freedom. She built a coaching practice that empowers Black professionals to do the same. She began sparking conversations in corporate and entrepreneurial communities about dismantling the perceptual legacy of slavery for Black women. She empowered entrepreneurs to prioritize self healing. She did not just survive, she chose to heal. And that choice changed everything. This brings me to the second thing I want you to remember. Boundaries are a form of professional excellence, not selfishness. Saying no to unsafe clients, toxic workplaces, and exploitative relationships is not unprofessional. It's emotional risk management. For survivors, boundaries are a way to reteach your nervous system that you are now in charge. Let me say that again. Boundaries are a way to reteach your nervous system that you are now in charge. Because here's what nobody tells you: when you survive trauma, especially childhood trauma, your body learns to stay on high alert. Your nervous system learns that the world is not safe, that people are not trustworthy, that you have to protect yourself at all times. And that hypervigilance shows up in your career. It shows up in your leadership. It shows up in the way you say yes when you mean no. It shows up in the way you overwork, overextend, and overfunction because you're terrified that if you stop, something bad will happen. But boundaries interrupt that cycle. Boundaries say, I am safe now. I am in control. Now I get to decide who has access to me, my time, my energy, and my body. And that is not selfishness. That is healing. That is leadership. That is power. And this is where the research on Black women and trauma becomes so important. Black Women's Blueprint is a Black women led organization that addresses sexual violence against Black women and girls. They create healing centered programs, advocacy, and leadership spaces where survivors can transform their experiences into power, community, and systemic change. According to the US Department of Justice, Black females experience sexual violence at disproportionately high rates. But mainstream anti violence movements often marginalize Black women's specific experiences. So, Black Women's Blueprint built something different. They built survivor centered healing programs where Black women could share their stories and be believed. They used a historical lens that connected personal experiences to broader systems like slavery, Jim Crow, ongoing racism, and sexism. They emphasized bodily autonomy, consent, and reclaiming joy and pleasure as part of healing. And they supported survivors in becoming advocates, organizers, and professionals shaping policy and culture. The outcome, survivors moved from isolation and shame to community validation and activism. Many went on to lead campaigns, facilitate groups, or engage in professional roles that center healing justice. Their model reframed Black survivors not as broken, but as leaders with unique insight and wisdom. And that's the third thing I want you to hold on to. Softness can be a strategic leadership style, especially for Black women. Softness means you don't have to perform invincibility to be respected. When you prioritize healing, therapy, rest, supportive community, you show up more creative, more decisive, and more sustainably successful. Because here's the truth: being put together and high achieving can be a trauma response. It can be the way you prove to the world that you're okay, that you're valuable, that you're worthy of protection. But the invitation of the soft girl era is to build careers, businesses, and legacies that are not powered by pain, but by wholeness. So let me bring this home. Angelicia's journey from being unprotected and violated to becoming a woman who sets boundaries, chooses softness, and defines professionalism on her own terms, that is the heart of what we're talking about today. She moved from "I can survive anything" to "I deserve a life where I am not constantly surviving." And that shift is available to you too. You don't have to make your pain your personality. You don't have to make your survival story the only valuable part of you. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to heal. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to be soft. And when you do, you don't lose your power. You reclaim it. So here's what I need you to do right now. Not tomorrow, not when things calm down. Right now. I want you to ask yourself, what is one way I'm still living by a script that was written in my trauma? And what is one small concrete boundary or act of softness can I take this week to begin rewriting that script? Don't just think about it, write it down. Choose one action and give yourself permission to follow through. Because when you heal, you don't just change your life, you change how you lead, you change how you love, you change what becomes possible for the generations after you. This is not about being weak. This is not about giving up. This is about refusing to let your trauma write the rest of your story. This is about choosing wholeness over hustle. This is about choosing softness as your superpower. The world told you that your worth was in your endurance. I'm telling you that your worth is in your existence. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to earn peace. You don't have to earn softness. You already deserve it. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the right time. Stop waiting until you've proven yourself one more time. The time is now. The permission is yours. The power has always been yours. Welcome to your soft girl era. This is your invitation. This is your revolution. This is your life rewritten.